The crystal plate shattered against the marble wall, and three grown men flinched like children. Roman D'Angelo stood at the head of the table, his hands still trembling from the throw veins pulsing in his neck. "Get him out of my sight before I do something I'll regret." The chef was already on his knees begging. Roman didn't even look at him. Before we go further into this story, please subscribe to the channel. Follow my story all the way to the end and comment the city you're watching from so I can see how far my story has traveled. The chef's name was Antoine, and he had cooked for presidents. He had cooked for kings. He had cooked for the kind of men who could buy small countries with a phone call. And now he was crawling across the marble floor of Roman D'Angelo's estate, trying to gather pieces of broken porcelain with shaking fingers, while the most feared man in 3 states stood over him, breathing like a bull. "Mr. D'Angelo, please," Antoine whispered. "Please, sir, I followed the recipe exactly the way." "Stand up." "Sir, I said stand up." Antoine stood. His white chef's coat had a streak of red sauce across the chest that looked in the dim light of the dining room like a fresh wound. Roman walked a slow circle around him. Roman was a tall man, broad through the shoulders, with hair gone silver at the temples and eyes the color of cold coffee. He was 48 years old, and for the last 6 months, he had been dying. Not fast, not the kind of dying anyone could see from the outside. But every meal, every bite, every swallow had become a battle, and he was losing. "Antoine," Roman said. His voice had gone soft, which was the voice everyone in the house had learned to fear most. "How long have you worked for me?" 4 years, sir." 4 years, and in 4 years have I ever asked you for anything fancy, anything complicated? "No, sir." "Have I ever asked for foam, for gold leaf, for one of those little towers of vegetables you stack up like a child's building blocks?" "No, sir." "Then explain to me," Roman said, picking up a fork from the table and pointing it at the ruined plate on the floor. "Explain to me why every single thing you put in front of me tastes like it was cooked in a hospital. Explain to me why I can't keep food down. Explain to me why I'm losing weight, why my stomach burns, why I haven't slept a full night since November. Explain it to me, Antoine. I'm listening." Antoine opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. His eyes were wet. "I don't know, sir." Roman set the fork down very gently on the table. The gentleness was worse than yelling. "Get out of my house." "Sir, my wife, my daughters, You'll get severance, you'll get a reference, you'll get whatever you need, but you will not cook in this house again. Marco, walk him out." Marco was the man who stood by the door. Marco was always by the door. Marco had hands like cinder blocks and a face that had forgotten how to smile sometime around 1998. He stepped forward and put one of those cinder block hands on Antoine's shoulder, almost gentle, the way a father might guide a child. "Come on, chef, let's go." When the door closed behind them, Roman sat down at the empty table. He sat down very carefully, the way a man sits when his bones hurt. He put both hands flat on the marble and stared at them. They were big hands. They had done a lot of things in their time, some of which he tried not to think about anymore. But right now they were trembling, and he couldn't make them stop. "Sophia," he said. The housekeeper appeared in the doorway like she had been waiting. Sophia had run the household for 11 years. She was 62, gray-haired, sharp-eyed, and she was the only person in the building who was not afraid of Roman D'Angelo. She had been there when his mother died. She had been there when his brother died. She had held him once in 2019 on the worst night of his life, and they had never spoken of it again. "Sir, find me someone." "Sir, with respect, we just lost. I don't want a chef. I want someone who can boil water without poisoning me. Pull from the staff. Pull from the agency. Pull from the street if you have to. Just find someone who isn't going to stand over me with a tasting spoon and a French accent and tell me about the herbs they imported from Provence." "There's the new girl," Sophia said. Roman looked up. "What new girl?" "Started this morning from the agency. She was supposed to begin with the upstairs cleaning, but bring her here." "Sir, she's a maid. She's not—" "Sophia." Sophia closed her mouth. She nodded once. She left. Roman sat alone in the dining room for the next 4 minutes, and during those 4 minutes he thought about his father. His father had died at 51 of a heart that had simply finally refused to do its job anymore. His father had been a hard man, the kind of man who built an empire out of nothing and never once said the word love to either of his sons. But Roman remembered very clearly sitting at the kitchen table when he was 7 years old, and his father coming home late from somewhere he didn't want to talk about, and his mother putting a bowl of soup in front of him. Just soup. Chicken carrots, a little parsley. And his father had sat there, and he had eaten, and at one point he had looked across the table at his wife, and he had said, "Anna, this is good." And his mother had smiled, and that had been the whole conversation. That had been the whole moment. Roman had not thought about that moment in 30 years. "Sir," he looked up. Sophia was standing in the doorway again, and behind her was a young woman. She was maybe 26, 27 at most. She was small, not short exactly, but built narrow like someone who had spent her life carrying heavy things up flights of stairs. Her hair was pulled back in a tight bun. Her uniform was new, still creased from the package. Her hands were folded in front of her, and Roman noticed because Roman noticed everything that her hands were not shaking. That was unusual. In this house, the hands always shook. "What's your name?" "Nina, sir. Nina Carter." "How old are you, Nina Carter?" 26. "Where are you from?" "South Carolina originally. I came up to New York 3 years ago." "Was?" She paused. It was the smallest pause, but Roman caught it. "My mother passed, sir. There wasn't much keeping me there." Roman studied her face. There was no pity-seeking in it. There was no performance. She had answered the question, and now she was waiting for the next one. "Do you know who I am, Nina?" "Yes, sir." "What do you know?" "I know you're a man who can make me disappear if I do something wrong, sir." The agency was very clear about the rules. Don't speak unless spoken to. Don't take photographs. Don't ask questions. Don't enter the East Wing. "I know my job, sir." Roman almost smiled. He didn't, but he almost did, and that was something he had not almost done in a long time. "Sophia tells me you start today." "Yes, sir." "I have a different first task for you, oh?" "Yes, sir." "Go to the kitchen. Cook me something, anything. I don't care what. I haven't kept a meal down in 4 days, and the man who was supposed to feed me has just been escorted off the property. So you're up, Miss Carter. Go feed me." For the first time, something flickered across Nina's face. It wasn't fear. Roman watched for fear, and he was good at finding it. This wasn't that. It looked almost like she was thinking. "Sir," she said, "may I ask one question?" Sophia inhaled sharply behind her. Roman raised his hand without looking away from Nina. "You may." "Are you sick, sir?" The dining room went very quiet. Roman D'Angelo had a particular relationship with that question. 6 different doctors had asked it. His personal physician had asked it. His lawyer in a roundabout way had asked it. His enemies, through their own quiet channels, had been trying for months to find out if it was true. And the answer to that question, depending on who was asking and why, was worth conservatively several $1,000,000. A maid he had met 90 seconds ago had just asked it. He should have had her thrown out. He really should have. Instead, he heard himself say, "Why do you ask?" "Because there's a difference, sir, between cooking for a man who's hungry and cooking for a man who's hurting. If I'm cooking for hungry, I'll make you something hearty. If I'm cooking for hurting, I'll make you something else. That's all I needed to know." Roman looked at her for a long time. "Cook for hurting," he said. She nodded once. "Yes, sir." "Sophia, take her to the kitchen. Give her whatever she asks for." "Yes, sir." They left. Roman sat alone in the dining room for the second time that morning. But this time his hands were not trembling. In the kitchen, Sophia opened the door and held it, and Nina walked in and stopped. The kitchen was the size of a small apartment. There was an 8-burner stove, 2 ovens, a wood-fired pizza oven that Roman had never used, a wall of copper pots, 3 refrigerators, a walk-in pantry, and an island of polished black granite long enough to land a small plane on. There were jars of saffron worth more than Nina's monthly rent. There was a wheel of cheese under a glass dome that probably had its own zip code. Nina took it all in. She didn't say anything. Then she walked to the refrigerator, opened it, and started pulling things out. "Miss Carter," Sophia said carefully, "I should tell you, the chef who just left was the 3rd one this year. The first one lasted 6 weeks. The second one lasted 9 days. Antoine lasted 4 months, and he was the longest. Mr. D'Angelo doesn't fire chefs because they're bad. He fires them because nothing they make agrees with him." "I understand." "I'm not sure you do, child. He's not been well. He's been losing weight. The doctors come, they go, nothing changes. The men in this house, they're scared. They're scared because if something happens to him, what happens to them? Do you understand what I'm telling you? Nina closed the refrigerator. She had pulled out a whole chicken, a few carrots, an onion, a head of garlic, and a small bunch of celery. Sophia, where do you keep the salt? The salt. Just regular salt. Not the pink stuff or the black stuff or the stuff in the wooden box. Just regular salt. Sophia stared at her. Then she walked to the pantry and came back with a blue cardboard cylinder of plain table salt, dusty on the bottom like no one had touched it in a very long time. Thank you, Nina said. And do you have bread, real bread, day old even? There's a loaf in the pantry from yesterday. Perfect. Could you bring me a small pot, please? Not the fancy one, the small one with the dent in the side. Sophia turned and looked at the wall of copper pots, and there, third row down, was a small dented pot that did not match anything else in the kitchen. She had no idea how Nina had known it was there. How did you? Because there's always one, Sophia. In every kitchen, there's one pot the chef doesn't use. That's the one I want. Sophia brought her the pot. For the next 45 minutes, Nina Carter cooked. She did not look at recipes. She did not weigh anything. She broke the chicken down with a knife that she sharpened on the back of another knife, the way Sophia's grandmother used to do it. She put the bones in the dented pot with cold water and an onion she had cut in half without peeling it, and she let it simmer. She did not skim the broth obsessively. She did not deglaze with white wine. She did not consult anyone. She hummed. Sophia noticed that. She hummed a song very quietly under her breath, and Sophia recognized it eventually as an old hymn her own mother used to sing while cleaning houses in Queens 40 years ago. When the broth was ready, Nina strained it. She shredded a small amount of the chicken into the bowl. She added carrots and celery she had cooked separately, soft enough to mash with a spoon. She did not add herbs from a jar. She walked to the windowsill where Sophia kept a single struggling parsley plant that nobody had ever asked her about, and she pinched off 3 sprigs. She tore 2 slices of yesterday's bread into pieces. She did not toast them in the oven. She put a tiny bit of butter in a pan and toasted them there by hand until the edges were dark gold. She put the bread on the side of the bowl, not in it. Sophia, she said, may I ask you for something else? What do you need? Oh, a spoon, not a soup spoon, a regular spoon, a small one. Sophia found a small spoon. It was a teaspoon, really the kind used for stirring coffee. That's perfect. Why a small spoon? Nina looked up, and for the first time, Sophia saw her smile. It was a small smile, but it was real. Because when somebody hasn't been able to eat for a long time, a big spoon is a threat. A small spoon is an invitation. Sophia stared at her. Where did you learn that? My mother. What did your mother do? She was a hospice nurse, ma'am, for 31 years. She fed dying people for a living. Sophia did not say anything for a long moment. Then she said very quietly, take it to him. Nina picked up the bowl and the small spoon and the plate of bread, and she walked out of the kitchen. In the dining room, Roman D'Angelo was still sitting at the table. He had not moved. He had not made a phone call. He had not done any of the 17 things he should have been doing for his business that morning. He had simply been sitting and waiting and thinking about a bowl of soup his mother had once made for his father, and wondering when exactly he had started feeling this old, this tired, this empty. The door opened. Nina walked in. She set the bowl down in front of him. She set the small spoon next to its handle, facing him. She set the plate of bread to the side. She stepped back, but she did not leave. Roman looked at the bowl. It was the simplest thing he had ever been served in his own house. There was no garnish. There was no swirl of oil. There was no microgreen, no edible flour, no architectural arrangement of vegetables. It was a bowl of broth with some pieces of chicken in it and some carrots and some celery and 3 small leaves of parsley floating on top. It looked exactly like the soup his mother used to make. He picked up the spoon, the small spoon. He noticed it was small, and something about that registered in his chest in a way he could not have explained. He dipped the spoon into the broth. He brought it to his mouth. He tasted it. And Roman D'Angelo, the most feared man in 3 states, the man who had ordered other men's deaths over breakfast, the man who had not cried since he was 11 years old, sat at his marble dining table holding a small spoon and felt his eyes burn. He didn't cry. He wouldn't have allowed himself that. But for a moment, just one moment, the world got soft around the edges the way it does when something you had forgotten about comes back to you all at once. He took another spoonful. He took another. He didn't speak. He didn't look up. He just kept eating slowly the way a man eats when he has not allowed himself to be hungry in a very long time. Nana stood by the wall, hands folded, and she did not say a word. She did not ask if he liked it. She did not ask if he wanted more. She simply waited the way her mother had taught her to wait the way you wait by the bedside of someone who is trying to come back to themselves. He finished the bowl. He picked up a piece of the toasted bread. He ate that too. He set the spoon down. He sat there, both hands flat on the table again the way he had sat an hour ago, but his hands were not trembling now. And something in his face had changed, something Sophia would later try to describe to her sister on the phone and fail to put into words. "Miss Carter." "Yes, sir." "Who taught you to cook like that?" There was a long pause. "My mother, sir." Roman nodded slowly. He did not look at her. He looked at the empty bowl. "Tomorrow," he said, "breakfast, 7 a.m. "Yes, sir." "And Miss Carter?" "Yes, sir." "Use the small spoon." "Yes, sir." She turned and she walked out of the dining room, and she did not let her face change until she was halfway down the hall. And then only then did she lean against the wall for 1 second and close her eyes and let out the breath she had been holding for nearly an hour. Down the hall in the kitchen, Sophia was watching from the doorway. She had seen Nana come out of the dining room. She had seen the look on her face. And Sophia, who had run this house for 11 years, who had watched 3 chefs come and go, who had stopped believing that anything in this place could surprise her anymore, sat down very slowly on a kitchen stool. Because Sophia knew something that Nana did not yet know. Sophia knew that Roman D'Angelo had not asked anyone to come back the next morning in over 6 months. And in the dining room, Roman sat alone looking at the empty bowl. After a long moment, he reached out and picked up the small spoon. He turned it over in his fingers. It was nothing. It was a teaspoon. It was the cheapest piece of silverware in the entire house. He set it down very carefully as if it might break. Then he stood up, walked to the window, and looked out at the gray February morning. His phone was buzzing on the table behind him. There were 17 things he should have been doing. There were 3 men waiting in a car on the street outside the gate. There was a meeting in Brooklyn that afternoon that was going to determine possibly the next 10 years of his life. But for the first time in a very long time, Roman D'Angelo was not thinking about any of it. He was thinking about a young woman from South Carolina whose mother had been a hospice nurse who had walked into his kitchen 90 minutes ago and asked him a question no one else in the world had dared to ask. "Are you sick, sir?" He had told her the answer with one word: hurting. And she had cooked for that. He didn't know it yet, sitting there at the window with his hands in his pockets and his breath fogging the cold glass. But the woman who had just walked out of his dining room was about to change everything. Not in one day, not in one meal, but meal by meal, spoonful by spoonful, in a way that the most dangerous man in 3 states would not see coming until it was already done. Behind him on the table, the empty bowl sat in the morning light, and the small spoon lay next to it exactly where he had set it down. At 6:52 the next morning, Nana Carter was already in the kitchen. She had not slept much. She had lain in the small staff room on the 3rd floor and stared at the ceiling and thought about the small spoon and about the way Roman D'Angelo's hands had not trembled when he set it down, and about the way Sophia had looked at her in the hallway like she had just done something dangerous. She did not know yet that she had. Sophia came in at 6:55, carrying 2 cups of coffee. She set one down on the counter next to Nana without a word. "Drink it. You're going to need it." "Why?" "Because he's awake." Nana looked up. "He's been awake since 5, child. He's been pacing. The men outside, they came in to give him his briefing, and he sent them away. He told them to come back this afternoon." "Roman D'Angelo does not send men away in the morning, Miss Carter. Roman D'Angelo runs his business in the morning. Always, for 20 years. "Then what's he doing?" Sophia took a long sip of her coffee. "He's waiting for breakfast." Nana did not say anything. She turned back to the counter and started cracking eggs very carefully into a small ceramic bowl. "What are you making?" "Eggs, soft, with a piece of toast butter, no jam, and tea, not coffee." "He drinks coffee." "Not today, he doesn't." Sophia raised her eyebrows. "And how do you know that?" "Because his stomach is on fire, Sophia. I could see it in his face yesterday. Coffee will hurt him. Tea won't." Sophia watched her for a long moment, and then she did something she had not done in 11 years of running that house. She nodded. She nodded the way you nod at someone who knows what they're doing, and she stepped back and she let Nana work. At 7:02, Nana carried the tray into the dining room. Roman was sitting at the table in the same chair he had sat in yesterday. He was wearing a black shirt with the sleeves rolled up to his elbows and a watch that cost more than most cars, and he looked in the morning light smaller than he had looked yesterday. Not weak. Roman D'Angelo was never going to look weak, but less armored, less ready for war. "Good morning, sir. You're 2 minutes late." Nana's hand froze on the tray for 1/2 of 1 second, and then she set it down in front of him. "Yes, sir, I won't be tomorrow." He looked at her. There was something in his eyes that might have been the very beginning of a smile, but he did not let it get there. "What did you bring me?" "2 eggs soft scrambled, 1 piece of toast with butter, a pot of chamomile tea, and a small glass of water, sir. Just water, not iced." "No coffee?" "No, sir." "I drink coffee, Miss Carter." "Yes, sir, I know." "Then why didn't you bring me coffee?" Nana folded her hands in front of her the way she had done yesterday. She did not look down. "Because, sir, with respect, your stomach is hurting. Coffee is going to make it worse. If you want me to bring you coffee tomorrow, I'll bring it. But today, I brought you tea." In the doorway, Sophia made a small, sharp inhalation that nobody else heard. Roman picked up his fork. He did not say anything. He looked at the eggs. He looked at the tea. He looked at the small glass of water, which was room temperature, the way his mother used to bring it to him when he was sick as a child, because she said cold water shocked the stomach. He took a bite of the eggs. He chewed. He swallowed. He took another. "Miss Carter." "Yes, sir." "Sit down." Nana did not move. "Sir." "There's a chair. Sit down." "Sir, I'm not allowed to sit in the dining room. The agency was very clear." "The agency works for me, Miss Carter. Sit down." She sat. She sat at the very edge of a chair 3 seats away from him with her hands folded in her lap and her back as straight as a board, and she waited. Roman ate slowly. He drank some of the tea. He didn't speak for almost 3 minutes. And then without looking at her, he said, "How long was your mother a nurse?" 31 years, sir." "And she taught you to cook this way?" "Yes, sir." "Why?" Nana took a breath. "Because she said that when people are sick, well, see, food is the last thing they have control over. Everything else gets taken from them. Their strength, their privacy, their dignity. But food, sir, you can still choose. You can still say yes to a bite or no to a bite. So she said when you cook for somebody who's hurting you, don't put a mountain in front of them. You put 1 bite and then another, and you let them be the one who decides." Roman set his fork down very carefully. He looked at her for the first time since she had sat down. "Your mother sounds like she was a remarkable woman." "Yes, sir, she was." "How did she die?" "Cancer, sir, pancreatic. She lasted 11 months. "Did you cook for her?" "Every day for the last 7. He nodded slowly. He picked the fork back up. He ate the rest of the eggs. He ate the toast. He drank the entire pot of tea 1 cup at a time, and Nana watched and she did not say a word. And at the end of it, Roman D'Angelo had eaten more food in 1 morning than he had eaten in any single day of the previous 2 months. When he was done, he wiped his mouth with the napkin. He stood up. He looked down at her. "Lunch at 1, the same way." "Yes, sir." He started to walk out of the room. At the door, he stopped. He didn't turn around. "Miss Carter." "Yes, sir." "Tomorrow morning, you may bring me coffee, a small cup, with cream, no sugar." And then he was gone. In the hallway, Sophia caught Nana by the elbow. "What did you say to him?" "Nothing. He asked about my mother." "He asked about your mother, yes." Sophia put a hand to her own chest and she stood there for a long second. "Miss Carter, I have known that man for 11 years. He has not asked anyone in this house about their mother. Not once. Not the Christmas after Mr. Bellini's mother died. Not when Carla had her baby. Not ever. Do you understand what I am telling you?" "I think so, ma'am." "I don't think you do, child, but you will." That afternoon around 3 o'clock, the first thing went wrong. A man came to the house. His name was Vincent Russo. He was Roman's underboss, his closest associate, the second most feared man on the property when Roman was in residence, and the most feared when he was not. Vincent was 60 years old, gray-bearded, soft-spoken, and he had personally with his own hands ended the lives of more men than any nurse, doctor, or priest who had ever crossed Nina's path. Vincent walked into the kitchen without knocking. Nina was making a pot of broth for dinner. She turned. He looked at her. He did not introduce himself. "You're the new one." "Yes, sir." "You cooked for him this morning." "Yes, sir." "You're cooking for him tonight." "Yes, sir." Vincent nodded once. He walked over to the stove. He looked into the pot. He looked at the herbs Nina had laid out on the counter. He looked at her hands, which had a small burn on the back of the right one from a splash of oil 2 days ago at her old job. "Miss Carter," he said, "do you understand what's happening in this house?" "I'm not sure I do, sir. Mr. D'Angelo has not been well. There are people, Miss Carter, both inside this house and outside this house who are watching very closely. Watching to see how he is. Watching to see what he eats. Watching to see who is near him. Do you understand, Sweat?" "Yes, sir." "If anyone asks you what Mr. D'Angelo eats, what time he eats, how much he eats, whether he keeps it down, you say nothing. You don't even say you don't know. You say nothing, is that clear?" "Yes, sir." "If someone offers you money to answer those questions, you come to me first. If someone threatens you to answer those questions, you come to me first. If someone you have never seen before walks up to you in a parking lot or a grocery store and starts a friendly conversation, you come to me first." Nina felt the back of her neck go cold. She had been a maid for 3 years. She had cleaned big houses, fancy houses, the houses of doctors and lawyers, and one congressman. Nobody not once had ever told her something like this. "Yes, sir, I understand. And one more thing, Miss Carter." "Yes, sir." Vincent looked at her, and his eyes, which had been so soft, became something else. "Whatever you put in that food, whatever herb, whatever ingredient, whatever idea your mother gave you, if any of it ever makes him worse instead of better, if he ever gets sicker after a meal you cooked, I will know about it before the plate hits the sink. Do you understand what I'm telling you, child?" Nina's hands were trembling now. They had not trembled in front of Roman, but they were trembling in front of Vincent. "Yes, sir, I understand." "Good," Vincent said, and just like that his face went soft again. He nodded. He turned. He walked out. Nina stood at the stove for a long moment with her heart hammering. Then she turned the heat down on the broth, and she walked very fast down the hallway, and she found Sophia in the laundry room. "Sophia." Sophia looked at her. "He came, didn't he? He thinks I might be poisoning him. He thinks everybody might be poisoning him, child. That's his job." "Sophia, I'm a maid. I'm a maid from Charleston. I cleaned houses for an agency for 3 years. I make $800 a week. I cannot be in the middle of whatever this is. Listen to me." Sophia took her by both shoulders. "Listen, you did something yesterday. You did something nobody in this house has been able to do. You got him to eat. Do you understand how big that is? He just ate eggs, Sophia." "He ate? Miss Carter, he ate. 2 months ago, he passed out at a dinner in Manhattan in front of 4 other men. We had to bring him home in the back of a car. The doctor came in the middle of the night. They started talking about IVs, about feeding tubes. Do you know what a feeding tube would have done to him? Do you know what that would have done to his standing, to his business, to everything he has built? They would have eaten him alive. Miss Carter, the men outside this house, the moment they smelled weakness. So no, he did not just eat eggs. He ate. He kept it down. He asked for lunch. He asked for breakfast tomorrow. He asked you to sit down at his table, child. Do you have any idea what that means?" Nina was crying. She had not realized she was crying until Sophia reached up and wiped her cheek with one careful thumb. "I don't know what to do." "You do what your mother taught you. You cook for hurting. And you come to me before anybody else. If anyone in this house asks you anything that doesn't sit right, are you listening?" "Yes." "Now go finish that broth. He'll want it at 6. At 6 o'clock, Nina brought the dinner in. She brought the same kind of meal as yesterday, but slightly different. This time the broth was beef instead of chicken, and there were small, soft pieces of potato in it, and the bread was a different shape because she had bought it fresh that afternoon from a small Italian bakery Sophia had told her about. Roman ate it. He ate all of it. When he was done, he set the spoon down. He looked at her. He said, "Sit down, Miss Carter." She sat. He poured her a glass of water from the pitcher on the table, and he set it in front of her and Nana Carter, who had grown up in a single-wide trailer outside Charleston, sat at the dinner table of one of the most dangerous men in the United States, and she took a sip of water and in her hand shook only a little. "Vincent came to see you today." "Yes, sir." "What did he say?" "He told me to be careful." "He told you what would happen if you weren't?" "Yes, sir." Roman nodded slowly. He reached across the table and he picked up the small spoon. He turned it over in his fingers the same way he had done yesterday. "Miss Carter, I'm going to tell you something and I want you to listen very carefully." "Yes, sir." "Vincent Russo is not a bad man. He is a man who has spent his entire life keeping me alive. He has done things for me that I will not describe to you and that you do not want to know. When he warned you today, he warned you because, as he wanted to. He could have done many other things instead. Do you understand? I think so. You are now in a position, Miss Carter, that no maid in the history of this house has ever been in. You feed me. That is not a small job. That is right now in the state I am in the most important job in this entire household. More important than the security, more important than the cars, more important than anything except the work I do at this table." He tapped the table once. "If something were to happen to me, Miss Carter, if I were to become more ill, if I were to pass, do you understand what would happen to the people in this house?" "No, sir." "Nothing good." The room was very quiet. "I am telling you this," Roman said, "not to frighten you. I am telling you this because you need to understand the size of what you have walked into. You did not apply for this job, Miss Carter. The job found you. And starting tomorrow, you will be paid 4 times your current salary. You will move out of the staff room. There is a small apartment over the garage. It is yours. Sophia will bring you the keys." "Sir, I am not finished." "Yes, sir." "You will not under any circumstance leave the property without telling Sophia. You will not under any circumstance give your address to anyone outside this house. You will not give your phone number, your last name, your previous address, or any detail of your life before this morning to anyone you do not know. If anyone asks you who you work for, you say you work in private service and you change the subject. Is that clear?" "Yes, sir." "Good." He set the spoon down. "Now, tell me about your mother." Nana blinked. "Sir, your mother, the hospice nurse, tell me about her." Nana opened her mouth. She did not know what to say. She was sitting at the dinner table of a man who had just told her she was now possibly the most important employee in his entire empire. He was asking about her mother. "She was kind, sir. She was tired. She worked too hard. She raised me by herself. She used to sing while she cooked hymns mostly. And she was not a religious woman in any other way, but she sang them. She had bad hands, arthritis. By the end, she could barely peel a carrot. So I would peel them for her, and she would tell me how. She would say, 'Not so thick, baby, not so thick.' And I'd peel them thinner, and she'd say, 'That's right, that's the way.'" Roman did not look away from her. "What was her name?" "Marilyn, sir, Marilyn Carter." "Marilyn Carter," he said almost to himself. "Marilyn Carter taught her daughter to feed a man like me. I don't think she ever imagined it, sir." "No," Roman said. "I don't suppose she did." He stood up. He walked to the window, the same window he had stood at the morning before, and he put his hands in his pockets. "Miss Carter, I had a meeting today that I have been putting off for 3 weeks. I had it this afternoon. I had it because for the first time since November, I did not feel like I was going to be sick in the middle of a sentence." He did not turn around. "That is what you did. You, with your eggs and your tea and your small spoon." "Sir, You can go, Miss Carter. Breakfast at 7. Coffee like I said, small cup. Cream, no sugar." "Yes, sir." She stood up. She gathered the dishes. She walked very carefully to the door. She had one hand on the door frame when his voice came soft behind her. "Miss Carter." "Yes, sir." "Thank you." The dishes shook in her hands. She did not turn around. She did not trust her face to be the right face. "You are welcome, sir." She walked out. In the kitchen, she set the dishes in the sink. She put both her hands on the edge of the counter, and she leaned over, and she let out a long, shaking breath. Sophia came in behind her without saying anything. She stood next to her at the sink. After a long moment, Sophia said very quietly, "He thanked you." "How did you know?" "Because the door was open, Miss Carter. And in 11 years, I have never heard him say those words to a member of staff." Nina closed her eyes. Down the hall, Roman D'Angelo stood at the window. His phone was in his hand. He had not looked at it. He was thinking about a woman named Marilyn Carter who had died of pancreatic cancer in South Carolina, whose name no one in his world would ever know, whose hands had been ruined by arthritis, who had taught her daughter to peel carrots thin. He pressed a button on his phone. He held it to his ear. "Vincent, it's me." There was a pause. "The girl, Nina Carter, from this morning." Another pause. "I want everything. Where she's lived, who she's lived with, what she's done, what she's been paid, what she's said to anyone about this house. I want it by tomorrow night." He listened. "No, she's not in trouble. I want to know who she is. I want to know if she's real." He listened again. "Vincent, if she is real, if everything she said is true, then I want you to know something. I want you to know it now so there is no confusion later." He looked out at the darkening evening at the gate at the long driveway that led out to the road that led out to the world. This girl is not to be touched, not by us, not by anyone, whatever happens. Do you understand? He listened one last time, and then he nodded once to no one, and he ended the call. He stood at the window for a long time, and in the kitchen, Nina Carter was just beginning to wash the dishes, humming very quietly her mother's old hymn under her breath. The hymn was still on Nina's lips the next morning, when Sophia walked into the kitchen with a manila envelope under her arm and a face that did not match the soft gray dawn outside. "Miss Carter." "Good morning, Sophia." "Sit down, child." Nina set down the wooden spoon. She did not sit. "What is it?" "Sit down." She sat. Sophia put the envelope on the counter between them, and she did not open it. "Mr. Russo brought this an hour ago. He said to give it to you. He said you were to read it before breakfast. He said Mr. D'Angelo asked for it and that you should know what's in it before you walk back into that dining room." "What's in it?" "You, Miss Carter, your whole life, everywhere you've lived, every house you've cleaned, your mother's hospital records, your father's name, which you said you didn't know." Nina's hand froze halfway to the envelope. "My father's name. It's in there. Sophia, I never told anyone. They don't ask child, they find." Nina opened the envelope. Inside was a thin stack of papers, very neat, paper-clipped at the corner. Her name at the top of the first page. Her social security number. Her mother's full name and dates. Her 3 previous addresses. The agency she'd worked for. The clients she'd cleaned for, including the congressman. Her bank balance, which was $412. Her father's name on the second page in plain black type. A man she had met exactly twice in her life and had not spoken to in 19 years. Her hands were shaking. "Sophia, why is he doing this?" "Because Miss Carter last night, after you walked out of that dining room, he made a phone call. And in that phone call, he told Vincent Uso to leave you alone, forever. Whatever happens, he gave you his protection. Do you understand? No, he doesn't give that. Not to staff, not to anyone outside the family. The last person he gave it to was his nephew who passed 3 years ago. Before that, his mother. Before that, his brother. That is the company you are now in." Nina closed the folder. She put both her hands flat on top of it. "I need a minute." "You have until 7. Sophia left. Nina sat at the counter for the next 4 minutes with her eyes closed and her mother's voice in her head the way she always heard her mother's voice when something was happening that was bigger than her. Her mother had died saying over and over that whatever was coming next, it was going to be all right. Marilyn Carter had been wrong about a lot of things. She had been right about that. At 6:58, Nina picked up the tray. Coffee small, cup cream, no sugar. 1 soft boiled egg, a piece of toast cut diagonally the way her mother used to cut it, because her mother had said a triangle of toast looked friendlier than a square. A small bowl of warm oatmeal with a swirl of honey. No salt because she had read once on the back of a magazine in a doctor's office that honey settled the stomach faster than sugar. She walked into the dining room. Roman was already there. He was wearing a charcoal gray suit, no tie, and he looked this morning like a man who had slept. His eyes were clearer. The skin under them was less gray. "Good morning, Miss Carter." "Good morning, sir." "Sit down." She set down the tray. She sat. "You read the file?" "Yes, sir." "Anything in it that surprised you?" "My father's name." "Anything else?" She thought about it. She thought about it carefully. "You have my mother's hospital records." "Yes." Why do you have my mother's hospital record, sir? Roman picked up the small spoon. He looked at it the way he had been looking at that spoon for 2 days now. Because Miss Carter, when a stranger walks into my house and that stranger does something that nobody else has been able to do for me in 6 months, I have a choice. I can either decide she is a miracle, or I can decide she's a very good actor sent here by someone who wants me dead. There is no middle ground, and the longer I wait to decide, the more it costs me. Sir, I'm not about. I know you're not Miss Carter. I know that now. The records tell the truth. Your mother existed. Your mother died of pancreatic cancer at the Medical University of South Carolina on a Wednesday morning in March. Her hospice nurse signed the certificate. Her daughter was the only person at the bedside. That daughter is sitting at my dinner table this morning. I know. Nana did not say anything. She was looking at her hands. Eat your egg, Miss Carter. Sir, you set the trap for two. You always do. You think I haven't noticed eat your egg. The toast is yours. The coffee is mine. She looked up. There was on the tray exactly enough food for 1.5 people. She had not realized she was doing it. She had been doing it for her mother for so long that her hands had simply automatically set the tray that way. A little extra, always a little extra. She picked up the toast. She took a bite. She had not eaten breakfast in 2 days. Roman ate his egg. He drank his coffee slowly in small sips, the way someone drinks coffee when they have not been allowed to have coffee for a long time. When he was done, he sat back in his chair and he looked across the table at her and he said, Miss Carter, I'm going to ask you a question and I want you to answer it honestly. Yes, sir. Are you afraid of me? She paused. She thought about it. She thought about the man at the head of the table who had thrown a plate at a wall on Monday and had cried, almost cried, into a bowl of soup that same afternoon. A little, sir. Good, you should be. Yes, sir. But not as much as you were on Monday. No, sir. Roman smiled. It was small. It was barely there. But it was the first real smile he had let onto his own face in front of another human being in close to a year, and Nana saw it and she did not look away from it. Lunch at 1. Yes, sir. And Miss Carter. Yes, sir. Sophia is taking you to your new apartment after breakfast. Your things will be moved by noon. There is a phone in the apartment. If anything happens that you don't understand, you pick it up. It only calls one number. Do you understand? Yes, sir. Go on. She went. The apartment was on the second floor of the garage building, 100 feet from the main house. 2 rooms, a small bathroom, a kitchen the size of a closet, and a window that looked out over the back garden, where Roman's mother had once, according to Sophia, kept a vegetable patch with tomatoes and basil, and 3 rows of corn that had never once produced an actual ear of corn, but that she had loved anyway. The apartment had a bed, a dresser, a couch, a table. There was a small frame photograph on the wall by the door. Nana went over to it. It was a black and white picture of a woman holding a bowl of pasta smiling at the camera. Underneath in faded ink, somebody had written Anna 1971. Sophia came up behind her. That's his mother. Why is it here? Because this was her apartment, child. This is where she lived for the last 2 years of her life after his father passed. She didn't want to be in the big house. She said it was too quiet without him, so she moved out here, and Mr. D'Angelo had it remodeled for her, and she lived here until the morning she died. Nina's eyes went hot. Sophia, I can't live here. You can, child. He picked this apartment for you. He picked it on purpose. Why, Dow? Because Miss Carter, his mother, used to cook for his father. Just like that. The way you cook. Bread and broth and a little parsley. And she was the only person in his entire life who fed him without being afraid. Do you understand what he is telling you by putting you here? Nina did. She understood. She just couldn't make her mouth work to say it. The first crack in everything came 2 days later. It was Friday afternoon, just past 2 o'clock. Nana had served lunch and was washing the small pot in the kitchen sink when Marco, the man who stood by the door, came in moving fast. Marco never moved fast. Marco moved at one speed, and that speed was the speed of a man who had decided long ago that running was undignified. He was running now. Miss Carter, where's Sophia? In the laundry. What's wrong? Get her, now, and come to the office, both of you. He was gone before she could ask what office. In the office at the end of the east hallway, Roman was sitting behind his desk. Vincent Russo was standing by the window. There was a third man in the room. Somebody Nana had never seen before in a black coat holding a cell phone. Roman's face had gone back to the way it had been on Monday morning. The same color, the same hardness. The softening of the last 3 days was gone. "Miss Carter, sit down." She sat. Sophia stood behind her chair. "There has been a problem." "Sir, the man who delivers our produce, the man you bought your bread from at the bakery on Tuesday, the cousin of the woman who runs the dry cleaner that handles our linens. 3 people, Miss Carter. 3 people in the last 48 hours have been approached in the parking lots of their places of business by men they did not know. And those men have been asking the same question." Nana's mouth went dry. "What questions, sir? Who is the new girl?" The room was very quiet. "How did they find out about me?" "That Miss Carter is what we are trying to determine." Vincent. Vincent stepped forward. He did not look angry. That was the part that frightened her most. He did not look angry. "Miss Carter, since you came to this house, who have you spoken to outside this property?" "Nobody, sir. Nobody but the people I had to. The man at the bakery, the lady at the produce stand, the cashier at the small grocery on 5th where I went on Tuesday afternoon. I was there for 6 minutes. I bought tea. I paid in cash. I didn't speak to anyone." "Did you call anyone, text anyone?" "I called my aunt in Charleston on Wednesday night. She is the only family I have. I did not tell her where I was working. I told her I had a new job in private service, and the family was kind. That was all." "How long was the call?" 11 minutes. "Did you say his name?" "No, sir, I would never." "Did you describe the house?" "No, sir." Vincent looked at Roman. Roman did not look at her. Roman was looking at a piece of paper on his desk, and his hand was very still on top of it. "Miss Carter," Roman said, "there is something you do not know. I need to tell you now, because if I don't, you will not understand why what I'm about to say is happening." "Yes, sir." "For 7 months there has been a man, not a friend, a competitor. He has been waiting for me to die. He has been so confident I am going to die that he has already twice made moves on territory that is mine, on people who work for me, on contracts that bear my name. He is the reason I cannot afford to be sick, Miss Carter. Not in front of anyone, not for a single hour." "Yes, sir." "On Monday, when you walked into this house and you cooked for me, and I ate the men who watched me eat at the front door of the restaurant on Tuesday night, reported back to whoever they report to. Whoever sent them realized that something has changed in my house. I am being seen at meetings again. I am eating again. I look better. I sound better. And that means somebody is doing something here that has changed everything. Sir, they are going to find out it's you, Miss Carter. They may already know. And once they know, you will become very quickly a piece on a board in a game that has nothing to do with you. They will try to take you. They will try to bribe you. They will try to hurt you. They will try, depending on how desperate they get, to do other things. Do you understand? Nana's hands were on the arms of the chair. She could feel the wood under her palms. She could hear her own heartbeat in her ears. Sir, I should leave. I should go. I should get on a bus tonight. I should... No. The words stopped her cold. He had said it without raising his voice. He had said it the way a door closes. Sir! Roman finally looked up at her. His eyes were the color of cold coffee, the way they had been on Monday. But they were not cold now. Miss Carter, if you leave this house tonight, you will be dead before Sunday. Do you understand? They will not believe you walked away. They will believe you saw something. They will come for you and they will find you because we found you and we did not even need to try. So you are not leaving. Then what am I doing, sir? You are staying. You are cooking. You are not going to the bakery anymore. You are not going to the produce stand. You are not going anywhere. Whatever you need will be brought to you. Sophia will go in your place when there is shopping. Marco will be at the apartment door. The phone in your apartment is now, as of an hour ago, connected to 2 numbers instead of 1. The first is mine. The second is Vincent's. You will not call your aunt in Charleston for the next 2 weeks. You will write her a letter. We will mail it from Atlanta. Nana was nodding. She was not aware she was nodding. And Miss Carter. Yes, sir. There is one more thing. I owe it to you to tell you. Yes, sir. If this man, the one who is watching, decides that you are valuable to me, and he decides to come for you the way that men like him sometimes come for women, then there are 2 outcomes. The first is that we stop him before he gets to you. The second is that he gets to you and then he uses you against me, and then I do something that I have spent my entire adult life trying not to do, which is to start a war. I have not started a war in 22 years, Miss Carter. I would start one for you. I want you to know that, not because I am trying to frighten you, but because you deserve to know what you have walked into. Sir, let me finish. Yes, sir. You did not ask for this. You walked into my house on Monday morning to clean upstairs bedrooms. You ended up in front of me by accident because a chef threw a tantrum and I was hungry. You did a kindness for me that you had no obligation to do. You cooked me a bowl of soup, Miss Carter, and you brought it to me with a small spoon, and you told me without saying it that you saw what nobody in this house has been able to see for 6 months, which is that I am a man and I am sick, and I am tired, and I have not been touched by another human being in any kind way in longer than I can count. Nana was crying. She did not know when she had started crying. So no, Miss Carter, you are not going anywhere, and neither am I. And we are going to figure this out together. Do you understand? Yes, sir. Good. Sophia, take her back to the apartment. She'll cook from the main kitchen for the next 2 weeks. Marco stays with her between meals. Yes, sir. Sophia took Nana by the elbow and led her out of the office. Nana was walking, but she did not feel her feet on the floor. They went down the long hallway through the kitchen, out the back door across the courtyard, up the stairs to the apartment. Sophia opened the door for her. Marco was already there, standing by the window, his cinder block hands folded in front of him, his face the same as it always was. Marco, Sophia said, she needs a minute. Marco nodded. He stepped out into the hallway. Sophia closed the door. She walked Nana to the couch and she sat her down, and she sat down next to her and Nina Carter, 26 years old, of Charleston, South Carolina, daughter of a hospice nurse who had died 5 years ago, and a man whose name she had only learned that morning from a manila envelope, put her head on the shoulder of a 62-year-old housekeeper she had known for 4 days, and she cried. She cried for a long time. When she was finally done, Sophia got up. She went to the small kitchen. She put on a pot of water. She made tea the way Nana had been making it for Roman, because that was the only way Sophia knew how to make tea anymore. She brought it back to the couch. Miss Carter, yes, you need to listen to Mitri. All right? That man in that office, the man who just told you he would start a war for you, do you know how long it has been since he said anything close to that to anyone living? No. 22 years. The last person was his brother, and his brother is dead. Nana closed her eyes. Sophia, I don't want him to start a war. I know, child. I just wanted to cook a bowl of soup. I know. I just wanted to do my job. I know that too, baby. Sophia put a hand on the back of Nana's head, the way her mother used to do, and she did not say anything else because there was nothing else to say. Outside the window, the gray February afternoon was getting darker, and the gate at the end of the long driveway was closed, and Marco was standing in the hallway outside the door. And somewhere in the house, Roman D'Angelo was sitting at his desk, looking at a piece of paper, and on that piece of paper was a name. The name of the man who had been waiting for him to die. He was not going to wait anymore. He was not going to die. And the man who had been counting on it, the man whose name was on that piece of paper, was about to find out exactly what kind of mistake he had made. The name on the paper was Salvatore Greco. Roman had not said it out loud in 7 months. He had refused to. To say it was to give it weight, and Sal Greco was a man who already weighed too much in Roman's life. Sal had been an associate of his father's once. Sal had stood in the front pew at Roman's brother's funeral. Sal had brought a casserole to Roman's mother the week she died and had kissed her hand and had told her she was going to a better place. And Sal, for the last 4 years, had been quietly, methodically, patiently building a case to take everything Roman D'Angelo had ever built and put it in his own name the moment Roman went into the ground. Vincent walked into the office at 4:15. Romano? Sit. Vincent sat. Roman pushed the piece of paper across the desk. You already know what's on it. I do. Then you know what I'm about to ask you to do. Vincent did not pick the paper up. He looked at Roman across the desk, and he did the thing that Vincent did very rarely, which was to push back. Romano, listen to me. You are sitting at this desk right now with color in your face because of a girl who has been in this house for 5 days. 5 days. You have not slept that well in a year. You have not held down a meal like that in 8 months. You stood up at the meeting on Wednesday and you spoke for 40 minutes without your voice cracking, without your hand going to your stomach, without that look on your face that you get when you're about to be sick. 5 days, Romano. And now you're telling me you want to start a war. Over what? Over the fact that a few of his people asked questions about a maid in a parking lot. They are coming for her, Vincent. They are looking. There is a difference. By the time we know which one it is, it'll be too late. Romano Bush Street and Vincent. Yes. What if it were Maria? Vincent's face changed. Maria was Vincent's wife. Maria, who had cooked for Vincent every night for 38 years. Maria, who had once in 2007 slapped Roman across the face at a Christmas dinner because he had said something to Vincent that she had not liked. Maria, who Vincent loved more than his own life. Don't do that, Romano. What if it were Maria Vincent? What if it were Marie and someone like Sal Greco was asking about her in the parking lot of the place she gets her hair done? Vincent did not say anything. He picked up the piece of paper. He folded it once. He put it inside his jacket. Give me 3 days. 2. Romano. 2 days, Vincent. We don't have 3. He's already moving. You and I both know he's already moving. All right. 2. And Vincent. Yes. This is not about her. I want you to understand that. I am not doing this because of one girl who cooked me a bowl of soup. I am doing this because for 7 months I have let this man build and build and build, and the only reason I let him build is because I was sick and I thought I was going to die. I am not going to die, I have decided. So this stops now. With or without her, this stops now. Yes. Go. Vincent went. Upstairs in the apartment over the garage, Nana was on the couch and the tea Sophia had made her was cold. Sophia had gone back to the main house. Marco was outside the door. The afternoon light had turned the color of old pewter, and Nana was sitting very still, her hands in her lap, when there was a soft knock. She got up. She opened the door. Roman was standing there. Roman D'Angelo in his charcoal suit with his hands in his pockets in the doorway of the apartment over his own garage, looking at her like he was not sure he had the right to be there. Miss Carter? Sir? May I come in? Yes, sir. Of course, sir. He came in. He looked at the couch. He did not sit on it. He walked to the small framed photograph on the wall by the door, the one of his mother in 1971, holding a bowl of pasta. He stood in front of it for a moment. He did not touch it. Then he turned around. Miss Carter, I want to apologize. She blinked. Sir, I should not have spoken to you the way I did this afternoon. I should not have told you in front of Vincent and Marco and Sophia what I told you. I should have told you here, in this apartment, quietly, without an audience. The information was too heavy and the room was too full, and I did it the way I do everything, which is the way that gets the result I want as quickly as possible. That was wrong, I'm sorry. Nana did not know what to say. Roman D'Angelo had just apologized to her. Roman D'Angelo had walked across his own courtyard, climbed the stairs, knocked on the door of a maid he had hired 5 days ago and apologized. Sir, you don't have to. I do. Sit down, Miss Carter, please. He sat too on the chair across from the couch, the one his mother used to sit in. He put his hands on his knees and he looked at her, and Nana saw for the first time what Roman D'Angelo's face looked like when there was no power in it. There was just a man, a tired, frightened, sick man who had been carrying something alone for so long that he had forgotten it was heavy. I'm going to tell you something, he said, and I want you to know before I say it that I have not told this to anyone, not Vincent, not Sophia, not the doctors who have been coming to this house since November. I want you to hear it because I think you are the only person in this building who will know what to do with it. All right, sir. My mother died of stomach cancer. The room was very quiet. She was 68. The doctors found it too late. By the time they found it, she could not eat. Anything she put in her mouth, she could not keep down. She lost 40 pounds in 3 months. By the end, she was a shadow of herself. And the worst part of it, Miss Carter, the part I never told anyone, the part that has stayed with me for 9 years, is that I could not feed her. I tried. I brought her things, soft things, the things she used to like, pastina, custard, the pears she used to make in the fall. She could not eat any of it. She would smile at me and she would take a bite, and then she would have to go to the bathroom and bring it back up. And I would sit at her bedside and I would feel my heart break every single day because the woman who had fed me my entire life could not be fed by me. Not one bite, not one spoon. Nana did not move. In November, Miss Carter, when the doctor started telling me my own stomach was a problem, I did not hear what they were saying. I heard what they had said about my mother. I heard her doctor in 2017 sitting on the edge of her hospital bed telling me with that face they make that she wasn't going to make it to Christmas. I heard that. And so when my own doctor sat me down and told me that I had an ulcer, that there was inflammation, that my body was reacting to stress, I did not believe him. I believed I was dying. I believed I was dying the way she died. I believed every meal that came out of that kitchen was the last meal I was going to keep down before I started losing 40 pounds and went into a bed and never got out of it again. He stopped. He looked at his hands. That is why I have been throwing plates, Miss Carter. That is why I have been firing chefs. That is why my staff is afraid of me. It is not because the food was bad. The food was fine. The food was excellent. The problem was not the food. The problem was that I was sitting at that table every day waiting to die, and every bite I tried to take was the last bite my mother ever tried to take, and I could not swallow it. Nana's eyes were wet. Sir, and then on Monday, Miss Carter, you walked into my dining room and you brought me a bowl of soup that looked exactly the way my mother used to make it, with 3 little leaves of parsley, with a small spoon. And I took one bite and I tasted it, and I sat there at that table and I realized for the first time in 7 months that I was not my mother, that this was not 2017, that I had an ulcer the way my doctor had told me, that I was 48 years old and I was not dying. He looked up at her. You did not save my life on Monday, Miss Carter. The doctors had already told me how to save my life. You saved me from believing I was already dead. There is a difference, and I do not know how to repay you for it, but I am going to try for as long as I am able until the end of my own time on this earth. Nana was not crying out loud, but her face was wet. She did not wipe it. She did not move. Sir, I am not finished, Miss Carter. I am sorry. There is one more thing. All right. The man whose name was on the paper today, the one Vincent took out of my office, that man knew my mother. That man brought her soup once when she was sick. That man kissed her hand. I have been protecting him in my own mind for almost a decade because of that, because he was kind to her, because he wept at her funeral, because I was a stupid, sentimental, grieving son who could not believe that a man who had loved my mother could be the same man who was now planning to take everything I had built and put my name in the ground. But that is what he is, Miss Carter. He is both of those men. And the thing I have learned this afternoon, sitting at my desk with that piece of paper in my hand, is that you cannot let a kindness from 10 years ago decide what you do today. You cannot let the dead protect the living. My mother has been gone for 9 years. She does not need me to be loyal to a man who has betrayed me. She needs me to be alive. She needs me to be alive, and she needs me to keep what she helped my father build, and she needs me, Miss Carter, to feed myself. Nana closed her eyes. Sir, can I say something? You may say anything you like. My mother, she used to say at the end, when she was very sick, she used to say, baby, the day I'm gone, you cook for somebody who needs it. You promise me, don't waste what I taught you. Don't put it in a box and bury it with me. You take it and you give it away. And I said, yes, Mama. I said, yes. And I didn't, sir. For 5 years, I didn't. I cooked for myself. I cooked for my aunt on holidays. But I never gave it away the way she meant. I cleaned other people's houses, sir. I dusted their picture frames. I never set foot in their kitchens. I broke a promise to a dying woman for 5 years. She opened her eyes. She looked at him. On Monday, sir, when I walked into your kitchen and you said cook for hurting, I knew right then, sir. I knew my mother had sent me. I knew this was the thing she had been waiting for me to do. I am not afraid of Sal Greco. I am not afraid of his men in parking lots. I am afraid of being 26 and dying having broken my mother's last wish. So I am not going anywhere, sir. Not because you said I can't, because I won't. I won't leave this kitchen until you are well, sir. I made my mama a promise, and I am keeping it. The room went very quiet. Roman did not move for a long time. He looked at her, and his face, the face that had been hard for so many years that the lines had set in, round the mouth softened. Just at the corners. Just enough. Miss Carter, Yes, sir. Marilyn Carter raised a remarkable woman. Thank you, sir. He stood up. He walked to the door. He stopped with his hand on the door frame the way he always stopped, and he did not look back. Tomorrow morning, 7. Yes, sir. And Miss Carter? Yes, sir. You are not a maid, not in this house, not anymore. Whatever you were when you walked in here, you are something else now. We will figure out what to call it, but you are not cleaning anybody's bedrooms. Is that clear? Yes, sir. He closed the door behind him. He went down the stairs. He walked across the courtyard, and Marco, who had been standing in the hallway, did not say a word as he passed. Roman went into the main house into his office, and he closed the door, and he sat at his desk, and for the first time in 9 years, he allowed himself to think about his mother without looking away. The next 2 days were the longest 2 days Nana Carter had ever lived. She cooked. She did not leave the property. She wrote a letter to her aunt, which Sophia took from her hand and gave to a man who put it in his pocket and walked out the front gate and got into a car that drove south on the interstate. She made soup. She made pasta with butter and parmesan, the way Anna D'Angelo had once made it because Sophia had described it to her and she had figured out the rest. She'd made a pot of beef stew on the second night and Roman ate 2 bowls of it, and when he was done, he wiped the bowl with a piece of bread and he looked across the table at her and he said, "Miss Carter, my mother could not have done it better." And Nana felt for one long moment that she was not in a mansion in New York, but in a small kitchen in Charleston, and her own mother was at the stove and everything was all right and everything was where it should be. On the night of the second day at 11:43, Vincent Russo walked into Roman's office. He did not knock. He did not need to. It's done. Roman did not look up from the book he was reading. It was a book of poems his mother used to keep on the kitchen counter. He had not opened it in 9 years. He had opened it that morning. Tell me. He's at his sister's place in Long Beach, has been since Thursday. He thinks nobody knows. We have a man in the kitchen and a man in the garage. If you say the word, it happens before sunrise. Roman closed the book. He set it on the desk. He looked at Vincent. Don't. Vincent's face did not change, but his shoulders, which had been ready, eased slightly. Romano, don't kill him. Then what? Bring him here. Vincent stared at him. Romano, we have not done that in 20 years. We do not bring people here. This house is the one place. Bring him here, Vincent, to the front parlor, but tomorrow morning, 11. I want him sitting in the chair my mother used to sit in. I want him to look at her picture on the wall. I want him to hear what I'm going to say to him. And then I want him to walk out of here on his own 2 feet and disappear. He will go to Florida. He will retire. He will play golf and he will eat at restaurants where the waiter calls him Mr. Greco. He will not ever set foot in this state again. He will not ever speak my name to anyone. And if he does, then Vincent, then we will do what we did not do tomorrow. Vincent was silent for a long moment. Why, Maid? Roman picked up the book of poems. Because Vincent, my mother would not have wanted me to kill the man who once brought her soup. She would have wanted me to send him away. She would have wanted me to remember that he loved her even if he no longer loved me. So we are going to send him away, and we are going to do it quietly, and then we are going to be done with him forever. Vincent stood there for a long second, and then he nodded once very slowly. You're a different man this week, Romano. I know. It's going to take some getting used to. For all of us. Vincent left. Roman sat at his desk for a long time. He looked at the book of poems. He looked at the photograph of his mother on the bookshelf, the small one, the one he had not been able to look at in years. And then very slowly he reached for his phone and he dialed a number. And after one ring, Sophia answered. Sophia? Yes, Mr. D'Angelo. Tell Miss Carter I'd like to see her in the morning, before breakfast. 6:30, in the kitchen. Yes, Mr. D'Angelo. And Sophia. Yes. Thank you for staying. All these years. There was a long pause on the other end of the line, and then in a voice he had heard her use exactly once before on the worst night of his life. In 2019, Sophia said, It has been my honor, Romano. He set the phone down. He did not move for a long time, and outside the window, the lights in the apartment over the garage were still on, and a young woman was at the small kitchen sink washing a wooden spoon, humming an old hymn under her breath. And she did not yet know that in the morning the man who had hired her 5 days ago to clean upstairs bedrooms was going to ask her before breakfast to do something that nobody in his life had ever been asked to do before. At 6:28, Nana walked into the kitchen. Roman was already there. He was standing by the long granite island in shirt sleeves, no jacket, with his hands resting flat on the stone. There was no coffee on the counter. There was no tray. There was just Roman standing in his own kitchen, waiting for her. "Good morning, Miss Carter." "Good morning, sir. Sophia tells me you didn't sleep much." "No, sir." "Neither did I." She did not know what to say to that, so she said nothing. She walked to the counter, and she reached for her apron, and she had the strings in her hands when Roman said very quietly, "Don't." She stopped. "Sir." "Leave it. Sit down, Miss Carter." There was a stool at the corner of the island. She sat. He did not sit. He stood across from her with the granite between them, and he looked at her, and Nana saw in his face something she had not seen there before. Not softness, not fear, something else, something steadier. Something a man's face does not show until he has finally decided what he is going to do with the rest of his life. At 11 o'clock this morning, he said, "A man is going to walk into this house. He is going to come through the front door. He is going to sit in the chair where my mother used to sit. His name is Salvatore Greco." Nana felt her stomach drop. "Sir, I am not bringing him here to hurt him. I am not bringing him here to threaten him. I am bringing him here to send him away. He is going to leave my house this afternoon, and he is going to leave my state by tomorrow morning, and he is going to leave my life forever." "Yes, sir. I want you in the kitchen when he is in the parlor. I want you in this room. I want the door open, and I want you to cook, Miss Carter. I want the smell of food in this house when he sits in that chair. I want him to smell what my mother used to make. I want him to remember her. I want him to remember what he was before he became what he is now. I am going to give him a chance, Miss Carter, that I would not give to any other man in his position. And the reason I am giving it to him is because 9 years ago he kissed my mother's hand. I am paying that debt today, and then it is paid forever." Nana was nodding, slowly. "What do you want me to make, sir?" "What she used to make, the pasta with butter and Parmesan, the bread, the broth on the stove. Make all of it. Don't serve it. Just make it. The smell is what I want." "Yes, sir." "And Miss Carter." "Yes, sir. When he leaves, when he is gone, I want you to come into the parlor. I want to see you. I want him to see you on his way out, and I want him to know who you are, and I want him to understand that the woman who is going to feed me for the rest of my life is the daughter of a hospice nurse from South Carolina, and not anyone he could ever have imagined. I want him to leave this house knowing exactly what he lost when he stopped loving my mother and started waiting for me to die. Is that understood?" "Yes, sir." He nodded. He turned to walk out. At the doorway, he stopped. "Miss Carter." "Yes, sir." "You are going to be safe today. I want you to know that. There is no part of this morning that puts you in any danger. There are men in the house. There are men outside. I would not bring him here if I thought he could touch a single hair on your head. Do you understand me?" "Yes, sir." "Good." He walked out. At 11 o'clock exactly, the front bell rang. Nana was at the stove. The broth was simmering. The pasta was in a copper pot draining. There was a loaf of bread cooling on the counter, the second one she had baked that morning because the first had been too dark on the bottom. And she had made it again the way her mother had taught her to make it again, no matter how tired you were, no matter who was waiting. The kitchen smelled like a house she had grown up in. It smelled like a Sunday. It smelled like every good thing Marilyn Carter had ever stood over a stove to teach her. In the front parlor, Roman was already in his chair. Sal Greco was brought in by Vincent. Sal was 71 years old. He was a small man, a thin man with white hair combed back from a high forehead, and the kind of careful, deliberate movements of someone who had learned decades ago never to make a quick gesture in the wrong room. He was wearing a dark blue overcoat, which Vincent did not take from him, and a silk scarf around his neck, which he did not loosen. He saw Roman in the chair. He did not show surprise. He sat in the chair across from him, the chair Roman had said his mother used to sit in, and he set his hands on his knees, and he said very quietly, "Roman." "Sal, you look well." "I am well." "That is good news." "Is it?" The two men looked at each other for a long moment. From the kitchen, the smell of butter and Parmesan and broth and bread drifted into the parlor, and Sal Greco's nose, which was a nose that had been trained for 70 years, to read a room before his eyes had finished the work moved very slightly. His eyes flickered just once toward the hallway. He did not turn his head. Anna, he said, she used to make this. Yes, every Sunday, with the parsley, with the bread the way her mother showed her in Calabria. Yes, Sal swallowed. Roman saw him swallow. Roman, why did you bring me here? Because I want you to listen to me, Sal. I want you to listen to me with your eyes open and your hands where I can see them, and I want you to hear what I am about to say, and I want you to take it back with you to whatever room you go to next, and I want you to live the rest of your life with it. Are you ready to listen? I am listening. For 7 months, Sal, you have been waiting for me to die. You have been moving on my territory. You have been speaking to my men. You have been preparing as carefully as a man prepares for a wedding and to step into my place the day they put me in the ground. I know all of it. I have known it for some time. I have done nothing. Sal, because I was sick and because I thought in the weakest months of my life that maybe you were right. Maybe I was going. Maybe it was already over. Maybe the kindest thing was to let it happen and not to drag the people I love into a fight I could not win. Sal did not move. But I am not going, Sal. I am not dying. I have a doctor who has told me 3 times in the last week that I am going to live to be an old man. I have a stomach that is healing. I have a head that is clear. And I have, for the first time in 9 years, the smell of my mother's kitchen in my own house again. Roman leaned forward. You knew her, Sal. You loved her. I am going to ask you a question, and I want you to answer it. All right. If she were sitting in that chair you are sitting in, if she were sitting there right now looking at you and she knew everything you have done in the last 7 months, what would she say to you, Sal? Sal Greco did not answer. He looked at his hands. He looked at the floor. He did not speak for a long time. She would be ashamed of me, Roman. Yes. She would never speak to me again. No. Sal closed his eyes just for a second. When he opened them, they were wet. Roman saw it. He did not pretend not to see it. Roman, I want you to know something. I want you to know that what I did, what I have been doing, it was not because I did not love your mother. It was because after she went, I lost something. I lost the part of myself that had stood next to her and your father at the kitchen table. And after I lost that, I forgot. I forgot what kind of man she had thought I was. I started to be a different man. I started to want things she would never have wanted me to want. And I am not asking you to forgive me. I am not even asking you to understand. I am only telling you, because you are her son and you deserve to know. Sal, yes, I'm going to let you walk out of this house. Sal looked up. You are going to leave today. You are going to go to your sister in Long Beach. You are going to pack a bag. You are going to fly to Florida tomorrow morning. You will retire. You will live in a small house. You will play golf. You will eat at restaurants where the waiter knows your name. You will not ever come back to this state. You will not ever speak my name. You will not ever contact a single one of the people you have been speaking to. They are mine again, Sal, starting today. They were mine yesterday. They will be mine tomorrow. Do you understand? Yes. And if you do anything that I hear about, if you make one phone call, if you send one letter, if you breathe my name to a man at a bar, then Vincent will come to Florida, Sal. He will come to your small house, and he will not bring you back here. Do you understand what I am telling you? I understand. Good. Stand up. Sal stood up. Vincent stepped forward. Sal looked at Roman one more time. Roman. Yes. Thank you. Don't thank me, Sal. Thank her. Sal nodded. He turned. Vincent walked him to the door of the parlor, and at that exact moment, Nina Carter stepped out of the kitchen and into the hallway with a clean towel folded over her arm and her hair pulled back and a small smear of flour on the side of her jaw that she had not noticed. Sal stopped. He looked at her. He looked at her for a long second. He looked at her the way an old man looks at something he half remembers from a dream. He looked at the apron. He looked at her hands, which were the hands of a woman who had been working in a kitchen all morning. He looked at her eyes, which were dark and steady and not afraid of him, even though he was the most dangerous man who had ever walked through that hallway in 9 years. Young lady, sir, did you make that bread? Yes, sir. Who taught you? Nina looked just for 1 second at Roman, who was still in the parlor, watching them through the open door. He gave her the smallest nod. My mother, sir. Sal Greco closed his eyes. When he opened them, he reached out very slowly and he took Nina's hand. He held it just for a moment. He did not kiss it. He did not say anything else. He let it go. And then he walked out of the house past Marco, past the men at the gate, into a black car, and the car drove down the long driveway and through the gate and out of Roman D'Angelo's life forever. Nina stood in the hallway for a moment with her hand still raised. Then she let it drop. Roman walked out of the parlor. He came up next to her. He did not touch her. He stood beside her, and they both watched the gate close, and for a long time neither of them spoke. Miss Carter? Yes, sir. It's done. Yes, sir. Are you all right? I think so, sir. Good. Come on, let's eat. They went into the dining room. Sophia brought the food. Vincent came in. Marco came in. For the first time in 11 years of running that house, Sophia set the table for 5. Roman sat at the head. Vincent sat on his right. Nina sat on his left. Sophia sat across from her, which Sophia had never in her entire life done. Marco sat at the foot of the table, which Marco had never in his entire life done either. And the 5 of them ate the pasta with butter and parmesan and the bread and the broth, and at one point Vincent told a story about Anna D'Angelo from 1989, and Roman laughed, and Sophia, who had been in that house for 11 years, who had never seen Roman D'Angelo laugh at a dinner table, put her napkin to her face. It was a long lunch. It went into the afternoon. When it was over, Roman walked Nina back to the apartment over the garage. Marco walked behind them. At the bottom of the stairs, Roman turned to her. Miss Carter? Yes, sir. There is one more thing I have not told you. I should have told you earlier. I am telling you now. Yes, sir. My mother in 1971, the year of that photograph in your apartment, was 26 years old. She had just come to this country from Italy. She did not speak English. She got a job in the kitchen of a hotel in Brooklyn, and she worked there for 2 years. The man who hired her, Miss Carter, was not my father. The man who hired her was a man who had a wife and 3 children in a house in New Jersey, and he gave my mother a job because his wife had told him that morning to stop being a coward and to do one good thing for somebody before he died. That man was my grandfather, Miss Carter. My father's father. He did not know my mother. He did not know what would happen. He gave a young woman a job in a kitchen. 2 years later, she met his son. 2 years after that, I was born. Nina did not say anything. Sometimes, Roman said, the smallest decisions a person makes in their life turn out to be the largest decisions a family ever has. My grandfather did not know when he hired my mother that he was building me. He did not know when he gave her a chance that he was giving the next 40 years of his family's life a shape. He just gave a woman a job in a kitchen. Sir, on Monday morning, Miss Carter, I almost sent you back to the agency. Sophia stood in this hallway and she told me about you, and I almost said no. I almost said, get me someone older. I almost said, get me a real chef. I almost made the smallest decision of the morning, the smallest decision of my whole life, and I almost made it the wrong way. But I didn't. I said, bring her in. And you walked into my dining room, and you saved me. He took something out of his pocket. It was the small spoon, the teaspoon, the one she had brought him with the first bowl of soup. I want you to have this. Sir, that's just... I know what it is, Miss Carter. I know exactly what it is. It is the smallest spoon in this entire house. And it is the most important thing in this entire house. It belongs to you now. I want you to keep it. I want you to keep it for the rest of your life. And someday, Miss Carter, when you are an old woman and somebody you love is hurting, I want you to use this spoon, and I want you to think of an old man named Roman D'Angelo, who was so afraid of dying that he forgot how to live, and who was reminded by a young woman from South Carolina that the smallest spoon in the right hands can save a man's life. She took the spoon. Her hands were steady. Thank you, sir. No, Miss Carter. Thank you. For all of it. Forever. Thank you. He turned. He walked back to the main house. Marco followed him. Nina stood at the bottom of the stairs for a long time holding the small spoon. Then she went up to the apartment and she set it on the small table by the window. And she sat down on the couch and she pulled her knees up under her chin. And she cried very quietly the way her mother had taught her to cry, with no sound, the way you cry when something good has happened and you cannot quite believe it. She cooked for him every day after that. She cooked for him for 11 years. She cooked for him on the day his ulcer finally healed, and she cooked for him on the day Vincent Russo retired and moved to a small house in Connecticut to be near his grandchildren. And she cooked for him on the day Sophia, at 73, finally agreed to stop running the household and to simply, for the first time in her adult life, sit. Nana cooked for Sophia too after that, every Sunday. Sophia lived in the apartment over the garage eventually. Nana moved into a bigger one near the back. Marco lived in a house at the front gate with a wife he had married against everyone's predictions at the age of 59. Roman D'Angelo never married. He never had children. But the house was full of people every Sunday, every holiday, every birthday of every person who worked there. And at the head of the table in his father's chair was a man who had once thought he was dying and had been wrong, and who had spent the rest of his life making sure that everyone who had stayed with him through the worst year of his life knew every single day that they were the family he had been given when his own had been taken from him. And in a small wooden box on the windowsill of Nana Carter's bedroom for the rest of her life, there was a small silver teaspoon. She used it sometimes, when somebody was hurting, when somebody she loved had not been able to eat. She would take it out of the mound and she would warm a little broth and she would carry it in carefully and she would sit at the bedside and she would offer one bite and then another and she would think every single time of an old hymn her mother used to sing, and a young Italian woman in a Brooklyn kitchen in 1971, and a feared man who had thrown a plate at a wall on a gray February morning, and the smallest spoon in the largest house in the state of New York. Marilyn Carter had been right. The day she was gone, her daughter had cooked for somebody who needed it. The promise had been kept. The kitchen had stayed open. The small spoon had done its work. And that, in the end, is the whole story.